I suppose that there's hardly anyone who forgets the concentration camps in Germany. Ever hear of a gulag? It's not some exotic food. Thanks for joining us. Our guest today is Julian Plowy, who has a story to tell. Johnny Cash had a song, "I've Been Everywhere, Man." Julian has been everywhere. Pleasure to see you.
My pleasure.
Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
Julian, your story is one for the books, and I'm sure that one day you will actually write your own story along with the other historical things that you have been researching. Your mom and dad were taken from Poland
Yes.
to Russia, World War II, 1938. Your mom was with child.
7 months.
And you were born.
In the gulags, April 5th, 1940.
And how long were you in captivity there?
Approximately 2 years.
So your memory of that is probably pretty slim.
My personal memory is slim, but with the historical documents that I've looked at, with the people I've talked to, my parents, it all kind of mixes together and it becomes my story.
When I think of what I saw just a few minutes ago before we went on air, the map of Russia showing the number of those labor camps, the gulags, it shocked me. And you have a copy of it there. Maybe you'll show our audience. Each dot on the map represents a gulag. Thousands.
Yeah, 2,300. And I call them death camps.
When you told me that the Stalin regime was responsible for 2 million deaths in Russia, staggering amount.
Actually, those were primarily Polish deaths. But the Stalin regime, just his own people, he killed 25 million.
25 million too.
His own people. Now, the communist system throughout the world during that period of time and beyond is responsible for about 200 million people died.
In that period of time before and during the war?
Well, up until the current time,
Yeah.
China and et cetera. So the communist system totally is responsible for approximately 200 million deaths in the world.
From what you know from the historical record and your parents, by the way, did your father survive the war?
My father survived until we got out of Russia, the gulags, and we were in a staging area for the Polish army in exile, and that was in Persia, which is now Iran, in Tehran. And because of the poor health of the people that were in those camps, diseases ran rampant there in Persia, and many people died there. So my father died there when I was 2 years and 2 days old. He passed away.
Now those 2 years, I understand that food was so lacking that your mother actually nursed you for those first 2 years of your life.
Correct. She nursed me, and she also nursed another child because that mother ran out of milk.
Oh my goodness. Do you know what happened to that child?
We both survived.
That's wonderful, isn't it? Oh my gosh, what a connection the two of you have. So you go from Tehran, and the next stop is?
Well, we went to Karachi, India. We went to Australia, and then by ship, it was the Hermitage. and we docked in Long Beach, California. We were taken to a military camp, and we were there right outside of LA. Now it's a racetrack. So we were there approximately 10 days. And then we were taken by train. During all that time, there was a total blackout for the news media, and taken the train to El Paso. From El Paso, we changed trains and went to Mexico, to a little place called Colonia Santa Rosa. And
How deep in Mexico was that?
that's quite a way in. It's I think the state there is Jalisco or something like that. So the train was all blocked out, so we couldn't see out. No one could see in as we traveled across the United States. And then finally we got to Mexico. And of course, when you come from the gulags and you have no food, etc., so the kids and the parents would hide whatever food they had that were given to us in the United States. And we didn't know what to expect in Mexico because, again, the train was all blacked out. We couldn't see out. So the Mexican people treated us beautifully. Yeah. They had a parade.
Really?
Yeah. Flowers.
How
Yeah.
wonderful.
It
What
was
great
a
welcome.
homecoming. Yeah.
And then you went from Mexico to New York.
Yeah. Patterson, New Jersey.
Wow.
And then from there we moved to Buffalo. And I was 7 years old when I came to the United States. And at 18, I joined the Marine Corps. I was there for 4 years. And that's what brought me to California.
What was your duty station in the Marine Corps?
Well, I was in El Toro for a while. I was in the San Diego base. And then I was in Japan, in Iwakuni, for a year. And I had an education that was given to me in electronics at the Great Lakes Naval Station, and then additional electronics in San Diego. So I spent about almost 18 months in one form of school of electronics or another. I became a radar tech that works on the radar that lands aircraft, long distance, short distance.
Uh-huh.
So that was what I did in the Marine Corps.
And your mom, how long did she survive?
My mom survived until she was about 95 years old.
Good heavens.
Yeah. But the last 10 years were very, very painful.
Oh. Yeah. But to think that under all those adverse circumstances that her life went to 95 years.
Yeah. So my brother took care of her at home for the last 10 years. Fed her, washed her.
Yeah,
She was bedridden.
I see. Well, it's just amazing that anybody survived to a long, great age under the circumstances that went down.
Yeah, strong woman.
Now, when you started this tremendous amount of research on the Polish experience in the gulags, what was your intent?
Well, the intent was to find out more about my family and what happened to the Polish people. Because my story is no different than the 2 million people that were taken, and many of them lost their lives. And so I wanted a more in-depth information. And so I started to assemble that on the internet and writing to people. And then I found that there was a community in Chicago that was meeting once a year, which happened to be in Colonia, Santa Rosa, and there was a big group there. And so I decided to go to their meeting. And of course there I received a lot of literature from them, a lot of their history, a lot of the pictures, and I went to different museums, gathered the pictures, some in New York, some in Chicago, all over the world. People would send me stuff. I went on the internet, asked for different literature. One of the most exciting things was these autograph books, which the children wrote to each other as they left one country or one city to go to the next. And they would put personal mementos in there. They would draw pictures in their artwork. It's amazing what they did. So I assembled about 50 of these from around the world. And some people didn't send them to me because
they're so personal.
Right. So I paid for the scanning of the pages, or I insured these books to be sent to me, and I insured them back. And so I have about 1,500 pages.
Of notes from kids that were
Right.
had the same experience that you did.
Right, right.
Were you able to contact any children that you might have known in that period?
Not really. You know, I was still a young age.
Sure.
You know, I came to the United States at 7, so life just didn't mean that much to me to take notes during that period of time. It developed afterwards.
Right.
See, and then I want to know who am I? Why?
Where do I come from?
Why do I act the way I act? Right? So I didn't have a father to get that information.
Right.
I have a mother, but she had problems with memories, etc.
Yeah,
So-
her perspective was probably twisted another
So I
way.
had to dig the information out through other sources.
Right. We'll be back and we'll talk more with Mr. Plowy about his experience.
In life, we are not alone. We live with and among people. We constantly enter into contact and relationship with others. Some of these relationships are very formal and superficial, but some are very deep and intimate. How do relationships work? We can all easily relate with those relationships that have been wounded, which are sometimes even bleeding. Father Martin Padovani, SVD, has written a book called Healing Wounded Relationships. It is the result of his many years of work as a marriage counselor. He deals with some of the very simple but pertinent topics like communications, listening, intimacy, forgiveness, reconciliation, and dealing with anxiety and fear. And of course, a very practical question: how do you make a marriage work? You will surely be enriched by this book. You should get it for yourself, or maybe get a copy for a relative or a friend. Be blessed by this book and improve your relationships.
Call the number on the screen or email us to get your copy. You can also place your order by visiting our website. Do it today.
Thanks very much for coming back with us. We're talking to Julian Plowy. That's a Polish name, and his odyssey from Poland to Russia to heaven knows where else, and finally to Buffalo, New York. You know, one of the things that we talked about, the other child that your mother was able to nurse, any recollection of what might have happened to that child?
No, because when we left the concentration camps, people went many different ways.
Yeah.
So you lose contact. You don't have, you don't know where they're at. You don't keep their names or addresses per se. My mother might have known the name, but of course I don't.
Who was responsible for removing you from the gulags and starting that journey?
Well, what happened was, at one time, Russia and Germany were allies. They were together. And then Germany decided to attack Russia. So at that point, Russia needed additional men to serve in the military. So since it had a lot of Polish men, the Polish general said, listen, we'll help you fight the Germans, but you have to let our men go out of the gulags. So those young men, 16, 17, 20, 50, whatever, old men, who said that they would help fight on the side of Russia, their families were released. And that's how we got out of the gulags. Otherwise, we would have all perished there, probably.
Just some do, some don't. I turned left, you turned right.
That's right. So,
When you look at the photographs that you've collected, the literature that you've collected, is there any one thing that stands out that when you saw it or read it the first time?
well, the amount that I have, every time you come across another piece, it jars your inside, right? But looking over the entire scope of what I have and the writings that are there, you understand the character of the Polish people. Because in the writings to each other, as they left, there was no hatred. It was just love and goodwill, greetings, and we'll see you back in Poland. You also find that the hope and the loss of faith was built back in the different countries that we eventually went to. For example, when my family went to Mexico, we had the Felician nuns come in, and they taught us in Polish, they taught us in English, and they taught us some Spanish. Okay? And they taught all the courses there was: history, biology, botany. We had our own gardens there, and they taught us all that. Husbandry, they taught us sewing, they even taught us dentistry.
Really?
Right. And that community consisted of about 1,600 individual Polish people. And in that community, we were supposed to stay within that community and not interact at all with the Mexican population in terms of trying to get jobs there, etc. So we had our own money that was given to us, and that we used the money to pay each other 25 cents or nickel, etc. So we were able to buy photographs, take photographs, etc., write memos and paper, etc. So some of that history, we rebuilt that compound. That was an old hacienda, Mexican hacienda that had gone through the revolution. So a lot of buildings were destroyed. So we rebuilt those buildings. We rebuilt the swimming pool. Like I say, we had our own gardens because we were teaching the people how to survive totally independent of where they were. And that's the character of the Polish people. They never gave up on educating their children. They never gave up hope in that particular area, and they renewed their faith.
And how many people were at the Colonia at one time?
About 1,600.
Did it start smaller and then people kept coming?
No, what happened was there was supposed to be 25,000 that were supposed to be there. But when the first group came there, and I think the first group was 700 or 800 people, the Mexican government realized that the Polish people were very anti-communist. You know why? Right. And at that time, the Mexican government was a little pink. So they were kind of weary of bringing too many there. So an additional 750 people came in. And so they cut it off at approximately 1,600 people. And they were a little hesitant at first, but then they realized, because we gave concerts to the people, local people, the Mexican people, in Polish, right? Our dances, our songs, etc. Mm-hmm. And they gave concerts to us. So the community melted together, you know. And so pretty soon the Mexican government allowed us to take field trips. So we bought an old bus and we went to Mexico City and Guadalajara and etc.
I can just see a little fiesta with tacos,
Yeah.
taquitos, pierogies, golombkis,
Right.
a mix of the foods and the cultures. So that was fun for you, or was it really still very hard?
No, at that point, once we were there and we realized the generosity of the Mexican people, and we were away from the war, you know, we started to relax, right? And at that point, our hope came back. You know, our faith came back. Because what do you do when you're in a situation where people are dying in the gulags? Your mother or father has died, and the temperature is 45 degrees below zero,
Yeah.
and you can't bury them, right? So you say to God, God, what happened?
Yeah. Now, when you get to Buffalo, we talk about 45 below zero. It's not that cold, but pretty cold.
Yeah.
Coldest day of my life was in Buffalo when I went out of the train station and my footprints ran back in to warm up. How soon did you feel acclimated to being in America?
Well, I was fortunate that I was able to grasp the English language pretty quickly. And so I had to do all the translations, all the buying of the food, and all the legal documents for my family, my mother and my sister. Okay, my brother was in the Polish army in exile, so he was fighting in Italy, and he fought at Monte Cassino, etc.
Wow.
And so I was pretty acclimated. You know, a young guy, young child acclimates pretty quickly, and so I did the change, the shopping. But Mom would say, "What is this?" I would translate, etc. So I grew up quickly.
Did you go to Catholic school?
Yes, I did go to Catholic schools, and the first thing that the nuns told me, if you're going to succeed here in the United States, you have to drop your European accent totally. So I don't have a European accent.
What kind of things about American life attracted you? I mean, did you participate in sports? Was there some other things that...
Well, as I grew up, I went through the entire Catholic system,
Yep.
grammar school and high school, etc. And so we had drama in the grade school, actually. We had table tennis, ping pong. We had softball and baseball, and so I participated in all that. I didn't participate in football, and my mother was very protective of me. She didn't want me to play any sports that were difficult. And I excelled also in basketball. So those were the basic sports that I played all the way through.
We've got a lot in common.
Yeah.
My parents were, yeah, go ahead, play ball because you might get a scholarship. And that's the way it ended up. But I can recall, I still have it, the 7th grade picture of the football team, 7th, 8th, and 9th. I was 7. Some of the guys in that picture had mustaches and maybe 3 children. I don't know, but I looked like somebody's really young kid brother. And I had that opportunity. When you finished all of that and started your thing here. I think that's just, certainly you were right about it has to be done. Because if the past is washed away, we have no frame of reference, and we can't bring it forward, and we can't find the wonderful things anymore.
I always say to people, we are nothing but our memories. If we don't have memories, we are not a human being.
Well, I will always remember this. I can tell you that. What a great, great, great opportunity to speak with you and to hear all of this. And I commend you on the hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours you've spent recording this historical documents that you're doing.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to share this, and God bless you.
Oh, God bless you. God bless you out in the TV audience. Continue to support this ministry, and we'll be able to bring you other outstanding personalities who have made great contributions to all of us.
Thank you.
God bless you all. See you next time. Don't hesitate to look us up on the internet for past programs that you may have missed. And like Father used to say, let God make you smile. It's easy. Thanks again. Really great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
In life, we are not alone. We live with and among people. We constantly enter into contact and relationship with others. Some of these relationships are very formal and superficial, but some are very deep and intimate. How do relationships work? We can all easily relate with those relationships that have been wounded, which are sometimes even bleeding. Father Martin Padovani, SVD, has written a book called Healing Wounded Relationships. It is the result of his many years of work as a marriage counselor. He deals with some of the very simple but pertinent topics like communications, listening, intimacy, forgiveness, reconciliation, and dealing with anxiety and fear. And of course, a very practical question. How do you make a marriage work? You will surely be enriched by this book. You should get it for yourself, or maybe get a copy for a relative or a friend. Be blessed by this book and improve your relationships.
Call the number on the screen or email us to get your copy. You can also place your order by visiting our website. Do it today.